The whole, oh, where's Rita? I thought I saw her. Hi, Melissa. Hi, Eric. Melissa, I'm going to make you co-host. Are you one or two people? Machines. That's a
Only
beautiful.
one people.
What?
I'm only one person today.
Okay, so I'll make this the co-host.
Yeah.
Is that an Amherst College setting?
No. So Chris and I have been to 3 weddings in 4 weeks.
Wow.
One of them was on Sunday, and this is the venue. So this is a place in Greenfield called Mountain Rose Inn, and this is the view from where they got married.
Wow.
Yep, it's beautiful. It's an outdoor venue. It's a permanent tent structure. It has a complete concrete floor with dance floor. It has a I'll call it a shed, but it has a building. It has a bar and bathrooms and a kitchen for caterers. And then outside the tent is a couple seating areas with fire pits. And you have this view of the mountains. I don't know which side of the mountain it was, but yeah. So yeah, it was a beautiful wedding. I suggest if you're looking for a nice place to be outside for an event, this might be an option for you.
Yeah.
And I have a dirty screen, so a dirty lens. Hold on one second. Just getting stars. I don't know why my screen's dark now. Oh, yeah, I do know why.
Melissa, what is that behind you?
So, my husband and I have been to 4 weddings and 3 weddings in the last 4 weeks, and this was the last one. I know. I said to someone, I'm going to put professional wedding guest on my resume now.
Really?
Yeah, really?
So this is at the Mountain Rose Inn in Greenfield.
Oh, it's very pretty.
They're just past, not just past, but they're a little past GCC on Smith Hill Road, like literally out in the middle of nowhere. But this is the arbor where they got married.
That's
and then
beautiful.
what you don't see on the side is a permanent tent structure where it's beautiful chandeliers, and the tent is very permanent. And they have a building right next to the tent with bathrooms and a bar and a kitchen for caterers to work in.
Yeah, I never heard of the place.
Yeah, you should, if you need an event for
venue,
wedding, perfect for wedding, be great for a bridal shower, baby shower, you know, or any type of thing like that.
Must close in the winter, right? So it's a warm weather situation, right?
They might, although they have heaters, so maybe not.
It might stretch the season.
They might. The very end, there's the solid wall on the tent, so there's glass and glass doors that open on the very end of the tent. So yeah, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Like a little gem.
So where did Becky go? We could start on time. Oh, there you are. Okay, great.
I'm just throwing papers around.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order.
Okay.
The meeting of the Shutesbury Select Board. And the first item on our agenda, as usual, is public comment. And I see one person here who is not from the public. Do we have any public comment?
Not me.
Okay. Hi, Miriam.
Hi.
Okay. Hearing no public comment. Just going to go over the agenda. We have just at least one change this evening. We're going to do just a PFAS update from you, Melissa. Talk about fire department future and a committee thinking about a committee to put together to do that. We don't have the poll hearing. That has been delayed, and Becky can just explain.
And there's still a possibility, Rita, that they might show up. to
Okay,
explain it, what they're doing.
Okay.
But it was pretty clear we didn't have the legal paperwork, so they might not show up. They had to make
okay,
an alteration.
okay. So what we might do, we have just a state reimbursement request that we need to approve. And then we have meeting with the planning board and then town administrator updates and minutes. So Becky, maybe if we don't have anybody for the poll hearing, since we allotted 20 minutes for that, maybe we'll just move up the town administrator
Yeah.
update to that time.
Good.
And then, so that we'll keep on course for the planning, meeting with the planning board at
And maybe
6:25.
Depending on time, maybe the minutes as well.
Okay, sure, we can do both of those.
What are we meeting
So,
with the planning board about?
about the associate members. So there
Oh,
are
okay. Yep,
two associate
Yep.
members. They forward us their background information. And so we're just, we would go ahead and vote on those associate members. Okay, so PFAS, is there any update, Becky?
We did receive we received the written reports from the highway department. They're right here in this little package and here.
You opening the envelope as we sit here?
I was told that they were coming. Okay, I'm admitting an iPhone guest. You might want to find out who it is.
Yes. The person on the iPhone, please identify yourself. We need to have it for Linda for the minutes.
Oh, they don't have a microphone.
So they don't have a microphone, so they can't. Oh, it's connecting to audio.
Here they come.
I can change the name once they identify themselves.
Hi, this is Marlena Fontes.
You're muted, Rita.
Sorry, how did that happen? Okay. Linda, did you get that, Marlena Fontes?
There we go.
Okay, so Becky, you were going to give us,
Give you the report from the highway on their PFAS test. It came back at 104
Oh.
parts per trillion.
and what's the cutoff? For
20.
20.
But we've only had 3 over 100. And they've all been connected to that same well, the new well.
Perfect.
Well, I guess the fire station is the old well, the old fire station well. So the old fire station well and the new well both are over 100, which is,
So that means we would put a filter at the highway department?
it's been installed.
Oh, it has, okay.
It was installed right after they took these tests, and they will be coming back and retesting the sites that we put filters in. So we're waiting to get the results from the Valentines with their post-filter test that I think
Okay,
I don't think they've taken place yet. She was working on getting people out here maybe this week
okay,
to do the post-filter tests on those locations and at the Nancy Dillman's.
okay.
How are
And
those
then-
tests getting funded? Who's paying for those tests? How's that working?
Well, DEP is involved, is running this program. We started out, UMass funded some of the testing when people sent in their requests for testing. And since then, DEP evaluated all the data and they've been doing their own surveys and collecting new data. And they weren't going to retest after filters, but I begged her to do that, and they, in the meeting she had, they agreed. DEP agreed to test post filters on those sites. So they're just trying to get the work done.
Becky, was the reasoning for the not testing after the filter was because the filters do take care of the PFAS, or are supposed to be taking care of the PFAS?
No, it was to save money.
Okay.
On their end, but especially in the Valentine's case, they're aware that because they delivered one batch of water to the Valentines and to another property. The town has continued to do that. DEP stopped, they only did it once and they stopped. The town has picked up that effort, and because we're picking up the effort, they agreed to pay for the last round of testing. If ideally, the timing would have been better and the filters would have been installed 2 weeks sooner, and then their second test would have been post filter, but it didn't work out like that.
And is there any other tests outstanding, Becky? Any other
Not at this point.
houses?
I believe the one house that we were concerned about near the Watkins property, I haven't seen the report yet, but I believe we were both surprised that the numbers were under 20.
Okay.
So that was a good surprise.
Okay, so then we'll just wait on the retests then.
Yeah. And for the next meeting, I'll get a full summary of all I think one was sent out to the select board. I'm not sure if you've all seen it or not, of what we had to date. So it's not full yet. We need to get all the stragglers in.
Okay, so you're keeping a list then of all the addresses and what's
And results.
transpired?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'm just taking a look at the time. So next on our agenda at 5:45, so we're a few minutes early, but this might take a little bit of time. We're going to talk about the fire department and going forward, what we want to do related to Walter will be retiring in June. So this is a good opportunity. We have time now before we get too crazy with town meeting, and then all of a sudden, June is here and Walter's leaving, to think about what we want to see with the new fire department and or with new leadership in the fire department, kind of what the needs are, and not make this into some protracted study, but rather have a group of individuals just to think through, I think, with Walter about what the needs are in Shutesbury, because I think over time they have evolved. I think our fire department often functions more like doing emergency medical assistance than fires. So what we want to do is bring together, I don't know, maybe 5 people, somebody from the select board, the police chief, and Walter, and then maybe a couple of other folks to just sit down, kind of go through some of the data and hear from Walter, both about what kind of the short-term kind of immediate needs are, and then looking forward, what we can expect, over the next 5 years. So, we went through this whole hazard mitigation study. We've had lots of input. There's a, team that's with representatives from many town committees. And I think, there are certainly things that we need to be aware of and thinking about related to climate change primarily. So, and how does the fire department relate to those things? So my proposal would be that we, for discussion, is that we have 5 members, again, somebody from the select board, Kristen as our sergeant, and Becky kind of ex officio, and Walter, and then maybe a couple of other people to maybe meet 3, maybe maximum 4 times to kind of hash out kind of what the kind of immediate and future needs we see, so that when we go to town meeting this year, that when we're looking over the fire department budget in advance of town meeting, that we have an idea about what a reconfigured fire department might look like. Does that sound reasonable?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think when we first brought it up, there was a suggestion that a personnel and a finance committee member be on that board, and
So maybe that rounds it out to 5. Maybe
I think it
that's who it is, have personnel and finance committee.
I think it does. It rounds it out probably
Yeah,
nicely.
yeah. Eric, is that? you
Yeah,
think
no,
we
that's
need-
fine.
Is
That's
there
good. Yeah,
anybody else?
Yes, I'm nodding. Yes, that's good.
Okay, okay.
Sorry.
All right, and then, you know, is there anybody here who wants to volunteer for the select board to? Melissa's doing the police. Eric? And I can do it, but Eric, you'd be great.
I'd be great.
wonderful. Thank you, Eric.
Tell that to the boss. No, well, you know,
You want to think about it?
yeah, I mean, I will say this, LWAC is taking more time than I would have
Yeah.
anticipated.
Yeah,
You know, maybe that's obviously something that'll change over time, but that's definitely, it's something that's taking time that I didn't really count on it happening.
Yeah.
But I mean, whatever, I'll do,
okay, why don't you think about it, and then we can, we have to get organized anyway, right? Becky?
I know that Elaine Paleo had a lot of interest in this area, and with her background in public health.
We could do a select board designee,
Yeah,
That's right.
right?
yep.
yeah, if she'd be up for it, that would be
Yeah.
great, I would think, if
Yeah, that
that's
would be great.
possible.
We can inquire.
Okay,
And
Yeah, we
she
can
also
ask
has
her if
the
she's
experience-
interested.
She also has the experience of the select board, being on the
Yeah.
select, so she might
And the
know.
finance committee, she's definitely
the
sort of
finance
a
committee.
well-versed in town politics, no question about it.
And she's been involved in a lot of statewide, you know, health issues and go
Mhm.
to conferences, and she's traveled all over the world dealing with different health issues, medical issues. So,
okay,
and I was wondering, instead, typically we wait till the next board has a meeting and ask for a volunteer. It drags the process out about a month.
yeah,
Really, and I'm wondering if you want to just ask possibly either George from the finance committee and April from the personnel board, both people who will have a running start on the issue, instead of waiting for them to volunteer.
The only
know-
thing I'd be afraid of is that sort of, it sort of smacks of us loading the committee ourselves, you know, and that's, you know what I'm trying to say? That
Yeah,
I'm-
not like a select board.
what's that?
It's max of you acting like a select board.
No, I mean, it sort of
Yeah.
says, here's the finance committee, that we know there are different views in the finance committee about spending money in the town. And so we're picking the people that don't have those views. That's all I'm saying. You know, it's,
when does the finance committee meet again? They meet fairly regularly, don't they?
The
Wednesday.
21st,
Wasn't it Wednesday, the 20th?
the
Yeah.
20th.
The 20th. Yeah, I guess I'd rather,
21st.
Okay,
yeah, I'd rather not handpick people. I'd rather have them, somebody volunteer. And the personnel committee, they don't meet that often, maybe,
Once a
I
month.
think you're scheduled for the 21st.
Okay, perfect.
Oh, that's good.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I'd say to both those
Houston-
committees, if we want it, we'd like them to decide then what to do.
Next week.
If they, and that's a week from now, it's not gonna,
Yeah.
that's fine. I think that's
Sounds
plenty of
good.
time.
Yeah. And then I think, without further action by the select board, that we could just accept those, whoever those people are. I mean, this is not, it's kind of an ad hoc committee, right?
Yeah.
Or do we have to,
Well, it follows open meeting law.
right, do we have to make the appointments, I guess is the question. We do, okay. So we
So
would
can
do
we-
that at our next meeting.
Okay, I was just gonna say, can we make a general appointment for one volunteer from personnel, one volunteer from finance?
Linda
and
saying
one-
no.
No, okay, no, that's, it was
Okay.
just-
Nice
Yeah,
thought, though.
we can do it.
I like
mean,
it. I like that way of thinking.
right, because we
Yeah.
want to volunteer, so,
We want to
we're gonna
streamline
take
the
whoever
process.
volunteers.
Okay, so if they, Becky, do you
That's
want
what I was-
them?
That's what I was trying to get around. That's how it
Right.
always goes, like 2
Yeah,
weeks,
I
3
know.
weeks.
I
month.
know, I mean.
But
it-
I think we're starting it early enough that even if it takes time, I think that transparency is the word people use, or what, I don't know what the word, you know what I'm trying to say.
Process and
That
transparency.
trumps the
Yes.
speed of it to me,
Yep.
personally.
Yeah,
Well, this one
so-
has a definite finish line.
It does.
Right.
And again, I don't think this needs to be a protracted process. It's just kind of getting it going and making sure within the budget calendar that that we have some recommendations coming forth.
Rita, the
Right.
word I didn't hear you use was structure, and I think potentially we will be looking at a new structure for the department.
A new,
Well, reconfigured could
you're
mean
talking, administrative structure.
Yeah, because,
You're not talking about a new building, right?
no.
Okay.
I mean, it
Yes.
seems to me that I'm not offering an opinion on it, but good, bad, or indifferent. I mean, this town spends a lot of money on their fire department and their emergency management stuff compared to other towns our size.
Mhm.
And some people don't like that. I will say that.
Well,
And
I know it's not true of the police department, and I
no,
don't
I'm
think,
talking about the fire department in particular.
Right.
Yeah.
Fire and emergency management, a full-time fire chief and all that stuff compared to other towns in this area, that is not it's not standard procedure. Let's just put it that way. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying
An
it's something might
observation.
be considered.
and it might turn out that other towns are going that direction.
Yes,
But it doesn't, that's why we're gonna talk about it.
Yeah, we've got to
Right.
look at what, again, sort of our immediate needs, and then doing
Right.
some, like a 5-year, 10-year projection.
right. Oh, absolutely.
So do I hear a motion to appoint a fire department committee?
So
I-
moved.
Yeah, I will second.
Oh, Linda, should I have to say what the composition is? Would that make it clearer? Yeah, so a fire department study committee composed of select board member or our designee and the police sergeant, a fire chief, personnel committee, and finance committee.
And Becky is ex officio.
And Becky's
Officio.
ex officio. So there's been a motion and a second.
Mhm.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Farrell, aye. Do we want to check with Elaine before we designate her? And we can do that when we do all the other appointments.
She might say no if we did it that
You
way.
might say no.
No, I'm just kidding.
It might be a good courtesy to do that.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I'll reach out.
It's- Okay. And since we're gonna do, we hope to do all the other appointments at the next meeting, then we could do that one too,
Okay, on the 28th of October.
on the 28th of October. So, 28th of October. I just have to double check this. Is it the 28th or is it the 26th?
26th, you're right.
Thank you, because I won't be here on the 28th. Right. Okay, the 26th of October. Thank you. All right, so the next item on our agenda was to have the poll hearing. And Becky, if you want to, it doesn't look like anybody's here from National.
No, Wim's here. Wim's here. That's Wim down there. He's here for that,
The
I'm
poll
sure.
hearing.
Unless he's here to hear our scintillating conversation, but I think he's here for that.
Well, we don't have anybody coming from National Grid, and Becky can explain why they're not coming this evening.
Oh my goodness, could I have to take something. I'm sorry, I have an emergency.
Okay.
Okay,
Sorry, everybody. We'll just have to hold for a minute because I don't know. Wim, it has something to do with some legal paperwork that did not get done, I think, by National Grid, and therefore we can't move ahead with the poll hearing until that.
Not a huge surprise to me, having dealt with National Grid now for 8 months.
Yeah, it's been pretty gruesome. And the other things on the agenda are things that we have to rely upon Becky for, so everybody can sit tight for a few minutes.
Have you dealt with these poll petitions before?
I have not in my time, but Melissa, yes. you
Yeah,
have?
there was one we had with our internet. It was a move or an additional poll. A slight move or an additional poll. I think they ended up removing the poll and just putting in a new one.
So when they were doing broadband, Melissa?
Yeah, it was I think it was only one. It was, it was pretty quick, it seemed, but all of that was kind of going on and being completed together. So, things were aligning a little bit different than I think this particular project. Which the kind of for National Grid must be a one-off thing,
Yeah.
Well, National Grid has sort of been a pain with regard to our culvert project. I know that. So the notion that National Grid drags their feet has bitten us before, put it that way.
my apologies, that was really awful, but it was a critical call, sorry.
Okay.
So my explanation, especially to Wim, is that National Grid had planned to make changes. They have to alter some things by about 20 feet, which is a plan design change. And I was supposed to get a copy of that emailed to me by today. And this afternoon, I was speaking with Robbie Williams, and I never received anything. He didn't have anything. And without the corrected legal document, he did not think we couldn't do it tonight. We're going to have to repost the meeting and send everything back out again with the new document, which is unfortunate because from what I understand, it's a very small change, but a critical change. Does that make sense to you, Wim?
Well, again, as much as anything that National Grid does that makes sense to me, yes, I suppose that I don't know what it entails. One question about it, because as we all know, the traffic is going to be diverted to the dirt part of Wendell Road. Is it your belief that this project can occur coincident with the detour?
I'd have to talk to the engineer. I've seen the drawings. It seems like it should be able to, but I don't I would count on their advice. And we're still struggling with our own poll, so I'm not sure. Hopefully our own poll has moved a few miles down the road and we're closer to it actually happening this season. So I can't tell you when. It's a
Right.
guessing game, but I will call you when I hear anything. I do have your number.
All right, great, thanks.
You're
And Becky,
welcome.
the poll at Ames Haven and Wendell Road is for what is being moved?
Okay, they're putting in like 20 new poles or 15. They're putting in 6 new poles, or they're actually installing new poles.
I
can't
see.
remember.
It's 7 poles.
7 poles. So these are
Okay.
all going to be installed along the roadway and we'll need heavy equipment and everything to do that. And I think we could, if we have to, we can block off that road and just have people go around if that's what the highway department agrees to do, if it's necessary. But we'll see when, if it's another 2 weeks before they can have the hearing, they're gonna be struggling to get it all done too.
So it's possible that this could be happening at the same time as the detour,
Yes.
which would make travel down that area, if there were trucks and so forth, virtually impossible.
Only in a specific location, so local traffic won't have any trouble. It's anybody trying to go all the way through, and that's why we would probably want to shut that off to anything but local traffic, which we're kind of trying to do anyway.
Okay. All right, so I guess that's stay tuned. I don't know, Wim, if you want to stick around, because I'm sure with Becky's report, she's probably going to be telling us the status of the National Grid pole moving for the culvert.
For the culvert work. I'll instead just be surprised.
You had enough fun already.
Yeah,
All
okay,
right,
we'll
thanks.
keep you posted. Okay.
Thanks
good
so
night.
much.
Good night.
See you,
Bye.
Wim.
See
Bye.
you.
Okay, so the next thing is a Mass Department of Transportation state reimbursement request.
Yes. So what we have here is the state aid reimbursable program for our municipal small bridge grant, which is for $500,000. And it is the funds that are paying for the new culvert. What is involved in the request, this specific request is the bulk of engineering that was done this year, which was $84,099.50. And this was due on September 30th. So the select board is retroactively approving this reimbursement request that you each signed off on the 30th of September to enable us to get the money this year.
Okay, so you need a vote from the select board for the reimbursement of 89,000, how many dollars?
89,
84,000.
sorry, $84,099.50.
Okay, so I hear a motion to approve that reimbursement.
I so moved.
Second,
Second? Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all
my only,
those,
just a technical point where because looks like I have not signed, well, I guess that was, no, oh, yeah, I would have signed this. Looks like only Melissa has signed this, that's all I'm
Well,
saying.
Because of the urgency, because I had to stop, I stopped at your house to get your signature after I got Tim's signature at Tim's house. So I've got one copy has your signature, one
Oh,
has.
I got, yeah, okay, I'm with you, okay.
and I submitted all of them.
Okay. I thought this looked familiar, this document, but I
Very
noticed my
good.
signature wasn't on it.
I'm glad
Yeah.
you found it familiar. Yeah.
Okay, that's
Okay,
fine.
so a motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, I.
Stalker eye.
Farrell, aye.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Okay, so let me just do a time check here. We are way ahead of the game here. So why don't we first get to the town administrator updates?
Okay.
That work for you, Eric?
Yep, that's fine. Perfect.
Okay.
Okay. So we've had a resignation by our new land use clerk. I'm sorry to say, she was fitting in very well. I just had a really positive report from Penny Jakes that she thought Lisa was getting a handle on everything. And the next day when I talked to her, she let me know that she did not, in the end, she didn't feel like she could fit this into her everyday life. So she put in her termination. I mean, she resigned. We have, at this point, it's an urgent situation for all three boards. I know Concom has a bit more regular activity, but all three boards are struggling. So I've placed ads in the Gazette. Linda placed an ad at the MACC website. I sent out a land use clerk advertisement on Town Announce this afternoon. I can't help but feel that it's really would be an ideal position for, for somebody in town, if they had the interest. I think it's the wetlands regulations that was the real problem for Lisa and for people that are unfamiliar. There's a lot to it. And then there's, but we have the best people in place to help train. But one of them, Penny Jakes, had said she was very done, but succumbed to the need today and showed up, and she'll be putting in about 4 hours a week to try to keep the Concom paperwork moving. So we've asked that other people on all of the committees really try to jump in and cover the workload as we have gone back out for another search. So that's been a time-consuming issue. Today, we held the exit interview for Marcus Johansson, our Academy police officer who only stayed with us 6 months after completing the academy. Rita was at the exit interview, and I'm very glad she was. It was, I think we tried to help him understand that the impact of his decision went far beyond his own personal career development. That when you take advantage of such an opportunity from a town, there are high expectations that you will pay it back with service to, more than 6 months. So that is completed. We will be finalizing the contract with him. He will be reimbursing the town for about $5,000, and he'll be working that out with the treasurer. So those are the unfortunate things that have happened so far the last week or so. I'm trying to think of the good ones. we,
Well, Becky, just sort of along those lines, I know that that Kristen is trying to figure out how she's gonna work out staffing. So I assume at the next select board meeting, we'll have a proposal from her around
So the
staffing and coverage.
yes, the police department with Marcus leaving is down another 40 hours. We really, I think we have three part-timers that are pitching in, two in particular. And Taylor Boudry especially has more flexibility and time to give us. So at the next meeting, Kristen will be asking that she be moved to 32 hours permanent part-time. That will take up one of the benefited slots, but I think it's a critical move to make at this time. Taylor, along with Kristen, are both on moving, have begun the Bridge Academy track. And next meeting, Kristen can update you on that. There's been one change to the Bridge Academy that will have a significant benefit as far as time to Kristen and the department. The requirement for, I think it's the PAT, the physical training piece, is now being waived. It turned out that the vendor who does all the testing does not think it would be physically possible for them to train 2,200 police officers in the next 9 months, which they would be required to do. So because of that, that piece is not going to be holding up movement through all the other coursework, and they'll be able to more swiftly move through their coursework. And Kristen said it will also save $300. So that's one positive this week. As far as the pole work goes on down at the new culvert, I've had a lot of back and forth this last week and over the weekend. The designs were completed. The select board signed off on all the pole hearing paperwork at their meeting on Thursday. And I was able to transmit that immediately. I received a document that is a services contract the next day, which Matt, our engineer, told us they never send until the petition is complete. So that paperwork was sent and signed. It was that one I could sign. So that one was returned on Friday. Over the weekend, I received another request from the project manager from National Grid for documentation of the site and documentation of the plan of the site and verification of the details about the pole and where it had to move. I confirmed with Matt Monday they were closed, but I forwarded all the documents I thought they were asking for and got Matt's confirmation that those were the documents that they needed. And they received those yesterday. I got that email at 7:30 in the morning yesterday. So I feel like National Grid is making a concerted effort to get our project done. That's my big one. We've got the police, and Kristen will be,
So Becky, what does this all mean in terms of the timing for the culvert replacement? Are we now beyond this year to getting it done this calendar year, or
We
is
are
it still?
not yet. It's because it depends when they schedule the work. So they've got all the documentations and approvals from the town to schedule the work. And the next piece was for them to get people out there to do the work. And so that's what I'm looking for next is the schedule. And I will forward that to you guys when I receive it.
And then is our contractor prepared to start as soon as?
Well,
They
I'm
get
going
the
to
phone.
notify, I've kept our engineer who's been in contact, who's the contact with the contractor. I've been updating him regularly, so they know it's possible that it could, that the poll could be set potentially next week or maybe even this week. That's our hope.
Mhm.
If that's to happen, I think they still have a shot. They'll have to evaluate it, but they've been thinking through all the contingencies about having colder weather and making sure that they can handle the work if we get approval in time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if something happens prior to the next select board meeting, if we can just keep us updated.
Yes, definitely. You'll probably hear me
Okay.
in town hall when it happens. But I was really happy that, yeah, I asked him to send me, yeah, he confirmed receipt. I don't have a new schedule yet. I just checked his latest email. which
If
was-
that's from the engineer?
No, the
From-
National
Oh,
Grid.
from National Grid, okay,
manager.
okay.
So we're doing all we can. And it's still a possibility to get it done.
Is it possible that the culvert would be replaced, but we wouldn't be able to pave the road this year?
That's a good question.
It's just something to think about, because if the asphalt plants are closing, let's say, before the job is done, then would we be okay with that road not being paved?
I think it's such a short section. Yeah, it's
But they
only
could put something on there.
500 feet. Yeah, and yeah, even if I will ask the engineer, I'm not going to guess.
Okay. Be good
I
to
mean,
know.
we have some roads in town that are dirt roads that get fair amount of traffic. I mean, Montague Road and so forth. So, I mean, I would think a few hundred feet, we could limp by if we had to, I would guess.
Yep. Yeah, but that's a good
I think
point.
it would just be good to know. It's yet another thing to prepare people for.
No, I agree 100%.
And the timing is just going to be really tricky if winter starts quickly, which is probably what's going to happen since it's been so nice.
Since fall
Right,
seems
we'll
to be
pay.
lasting longer.
We're gonna go from
Probably
this
pay.
to a foot of snow.
Right.
Any other comments from select board members? I see a hand in the audience. Miriam?
Yeah, Becky, the approved construction schedule was extended to, I think, like December 15th. If they are going to change that, would you let the Concom know? Because
Oh,
we're
yeah,
supposed to be
they'll
approving
have
the
to get
schedule.
you if they go, yeah.
I don't think it can go past December 15th with work, but yeah, I might be wrong.
I'll note that too. The other piece of good news is Tim, who has been out with, well, he's been out because of this shoulder surgery, but he has been working, doing administrative and some other work, minimal work, since July. But it looks like he might get signed off by his doctor at the beginning of, in a week or so. So we're looking forward to his returning full-time and being able to run the grader and other machines that hasn't been able to do.
And Becky, do you want to just give an update? I saw some work being done at the fire station today. Looked like some additional.
Oh, yeah, that's the big one.
Great.
So thanks to your decision-making on Thursday night, I was able to send out the bid award to Taylor Davis Landscaping for the $56,000. Tim is working with Walter to prepare for the paving. We have gotten back the signed contract from Taylor Davis today. And Walter was going to be talking to them to just confirm all the details about the scheduling and what they needed done. So I anticipate that's going to happen before our next meeting. And I did remind them about all the conservation requests to put out. It's not hay bales, but the boundaries along the wetland before they do any more work. I guess what had happened, and Walter explained it at the last meeting, that they did do some ripping up of pavement that was on the east side away from the wetlands, and which drew some concern from at least one Concom person. But it was, so they'll make sure to get that ready, and they're prepping the site. So that might get done before November as well. And in town hall, it's been pretty quiet outside of all the employee confusion and terminations. But we haven't had any more COVID issues, and I will be reviewing the COVID policy as you wrote it without any change from the Board of Health, just putting in that the contact person, instead of being the Board of Health, will be the town administrator.
Okay, so when will that will go out to everybody, all town employees?
It'll go out tomorrow, and I'm going to meet with the department heads for questions, I hope, on Thursday.
Other things, Eric, and Melissa, that you have questions about? I guess the only other thing that I was wondering about, I know we received something from Kevin Rudin, our administrative assessor, regarding the tax rate and the updated valuations. And I know that was all very preliminary and not ready for distribution, but do you know the timing, Becky, on?
Kevin, I spoke to Kevin over the weekend when he was in, and he was preparing to send off everything to DOR today, from what I understand. So, and I've seen, and I did caution him not to share the numbers further until DOR signed off on them. I didn't, there was concern about a couple of the figures.
Okay. And what's the typical turnaround, do you know, from DOR and approving?
It varies. It could be 5 days. It could be less. That's usually about you want to give them about a week. I think he's going to be asking for a hearing with the select board on the 9th of November.
Okay. And at that time, is that when the tax rate would get set? What happens?
That's to confirm the values and have you sign off on all the values. Then that information is part of the recap. And then once all the accountant's work is complete and finished along with that, and the full recap is done, then we'll get the final tax rate.
Okay.
Because there's
So
other
that,
factors, you know, like just the municipal reimbursement that you guys did last week, that impacts the free
see.
cash settlement, and all the pieces fit together. We'll probably hear about free cash ahead of the recap.
okay, the certified free cash?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so November 9th is when we would possibly have Kevin
Yeah,
on the agenda.
unless it takes longer for DOR, but I think 11/9 is the date he asked me about.
Okay, all right, great. All right, so at 6:22, we have a number of planning board folks who have joined us. We're scheduled with the planning board at 6:25, correct?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
Deacon, are you expecting any other members of the planning board to attend this evening?
I would assume it would be more than the three that are here now.
Okay,
I mean, I would suggest waiting till 6:25 anyway.
Yep, we will.
Rita, I have a question for you. There was a
Sure.
separate posting for the planning board meeting. Do you know if it's the same Zoom? There's a link in that posting.
Oh, it is. It is.
Okay,
It is the
Great.
same thing because I linked in through planning board and was welcome to select board.
great.
No, Grace and I coordinated.
Good. Yeah, we don't want the planning board members sitting in another Zoom meeting.
Yeah. Right.
Would you like to do the minutes?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. That's a great suggestion, Linda. Okay, so we have minutes from September 28th, 2021, that Linda has prepared. I've reviewed. Do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from, give me the date one more time, because I. caught the
September
20
28th.
September 28th, 2021.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion, any changes, edits to the minutes?
It looks
Okay.
good to me.
Great. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Make peace, O'Neill, aye.
Stalker eye.
Farrell, aye. Thank you, Linda. Okay, 6:24, guys.
Oh, people-
Here comes Linda.
Chop,
with
chop.
the-
We were supposed to have a poll hearing tonight and it got delayed because of some changes in the,
Oh, we'll have a quorum.
yeah, looks like you have a quorum. So whenever you're ready to call yourselves to order.
Why don't I believe it. I'll call us to order and read the governor's announcement. I think that was the advice we got at a previous
Sure.
joint meeting. Okay. Following the governor's restrictions on public meetings, this meeting is being held virtually using zoom.com for remote participation. Public may access it following the instructions of the meeting's agenda posted in the town calendar. If despite our best efforts, we are not able to provide real-time access, the public can request a recording of this meeting by contacting clerk. Great. And it's 6:25 now. So I think in previous meetings, we've tried to decide who was in charge.
Okay.
And I'm indifferent.
No, I'm happy to do it. So the planning board has joined the select board tonight to discuss the appointment of 2 associate members. And we voted on this this was town meeting, right? To
Yeah,
have to allow for associate members. And I think we just received some clarification regarding what associate members can and cannot vote on. So there was a change needed to the bylaw. Is that correct? Am I correct in saying that?
yeah, the AG's interpretation was that an associate member was only allowed statutorily to be for special permits. We can go into this substance. The planning board has a different interpretation, but we can talk about that later. But for now, that's what they're,
That prevails, unfortunately.
yeah. well,
The
for
Attorney
n-
General prevails,
For now, we'll see.
much as you want something else to happen.
But in any event, the main point is intact, which is that
Right.
we can have associate members for the special permit hearings we were worried about.
Yes, because a number, and the reason behind that is because some of the planning board members will have to recuse themselves. Is that correct? From
Special
from
permit,
votes on special permit.
That's right.
special permits require super majorities, so it's harder to muster enough votes to do anything, so they provided for the associate members.
Okay.
Right.
So I know you, Deegan, if you want to just lead off, I know you
Well,
sent
I
us
think we could-
2 candidates.
the planning board voted on recommending to the joint meeting 2 candidates. And I think we should start by having some discussion. I mean, I know you got a package of materials, but I think we should have some comments before we do anything else.
Comments from,
Do we want to hear from the
yeah,
the candidates themselves? I see one.
I see one, right.
One, yeah.
So maybe Rob, do you want to just start? I know we got some background information, but maybe you can just tell us again a little bit about yourself and your interest in serving on the planning board.
Sure. The solar projects are certainly a big issue for Shutesbury. And I think that they are allowed by law. And if they are going to go ahead, we need to be careful in how we permit them and make sure that whatever is done is in the best interest of the town, both ecologically and financially. And being on the committee to me is a chance to validate the engineering and the thought that goes into the design. I will be honest, I'm philosophically opposed against clear-cutting forests to install solar when there's still tremendous amount of rooftop and parking lot that could be used. But the law does allow it, so we should allow it as well. We just should allow it with caution. And I think that my 40 plus years of engineering, primarily in the water industry, puts me in pretty good position to evaluate any of the hydrology or flow patterns around the solar installations or any other large installation, even though my business has not been exactly in that type of engineering.
Okay, are there any questions from select board members? Melissa, Eric, any questions for Rob?
No, I read the resumes, or if you want to call them that, and no, I don't have any questions.
Okay, looks like Ken has joined us too. So Ken, what we're doing is just having the 2 candidates for the associate membership just give a real brief overview of who you are and your interest in serving as an associate member of the planning board. And you need to unmute yourself.
Hear me?
Yes.
I have an interest in being an associate on the planning board because I really want to see that be a part of the decision process to make sure that we do due diligence. How's that? Do due diligence and decisions about our town. And
We're having some, can you turn up your volume a little? We're having some transmission issues.
I think he froze.
He froze, yeah. You there?
here,
Now we can't hear you.
You got to pay your Crocker bill, Ken. Come on.
Yeah, really. Can't be the internet.
Going to stand over the router.
what I'm going to do.
That's better.
Hopefully I can sit down and do this too. So, can you hear me now?
Yes.
So as I was saying, I think we've got, or as I was about to say, I think we've got some big decisions ahead of us, and that we need to be as objective as we can about this. That we need as much scientific data as we can, because when it comes down to it, I certainly don't, and I'm sure many of you don't have the expertise, the hydrology, the engineering, the social impact from sociologists, psychologists. I think that's kind of information that we need to be able to make good decisions. I think feelings kind of have to go away, and we need to be objective. So.
Okay, any, Eric, Melissa, or anybody from the planning board have any questions for either Ken or Rob?
Well, my sense would be just to agree with Ken that I think that feelings have to go away. I mean, it's, you know, like it or not, we have this situation where there's a legal question in front of us that we're going to have to deal with. That's all.
We have a bylaw.
We have a bylaw.
And that's the responsibility of the planning board to.
Absolutely.
And we have
Review.
state law.
And we have state law. AG, state. Okay, so the procedure is that we will take a vote on this, and
One thing I would say is I think we should ask for planning board commentary too.
excuse me, taking the planning board, what?
Planning board views too.
Yeah, I asked if you had anything to
Well,
say.
okay. Jeff
I
has.
assume by your recommending them that you are in favor of these two individuals.
Well, I would say that recommending them to a joint meeting is not the same as is not necessarily the same as being in favor of their appointment. I mean, these were the only two of the three people who were interested who could even have served. I mean, Michael Pill couldn't have served at all on these special permit projects.
Mm-hmm. So does anybody from the planning board want to make any? I mean, typically you make a motion and then we have discussion. So,
Yep.
But we can have the discussion in advance. Jeff, did you have something you wanted to comment on?
I do. I voted nay on all three of the candidates. The rest of the planning board joined me on, all of the planning board members joined me on Michael Pill, you know, for many reasons. I voted against the other two, and I believe one planning board member joined me in voting nay on Ken Holt. So the votes were unanimous against Michael Pill and split for the other two candidates. I'm going to vote the same way this evening as I voted at the planning board meeting. Although I have no personal issues with either of these gentlemen. I know them both. Rob and I have lots of friends in common that go way back. Ken I know from the athletic club and volleyball and friends in common. I have no problems with either gentleman. But the biggest issue in front of us is probably solar applications, and these are discretionary special permits. They're not science experiments that can be determined by just adding up the numbers and seeing how they stack up. I mean, these are going to be discretionary decisions, and I feel that both Ken and Rob are known partisans in the Shutesbury solar issues. I've seen this play out for half a dozen years with Rob, who's married to Miriam and often testified against the Wheelock project. I've seen it recently with Ken, who wrote an op-ed, I believe, and other pieces, impassioned pieces against the solar projects before they were even in the door. He is in a butter, Ken is in a butter to one of them on Montague Road, but not to the other four. But that worries me, even though he can't vote on Montague. If he votes to try to kill the other four, then Montague is going to go away because there won't be an economically viable project anymore. So that kind of worries me. I think Ken has already stepped out and declared where he's at. Again, Rob was a Wheelock opponent. He is married to Miriam, who I believe is a known solar opponent, has gotten onto the Conservation Commission and the Historic Commission. And now her husband is trying to get onto the Planning Board. Those are all the boards that are going to make the solar decisions. And I feel it's too much concentrated power in one household. That just doesn't set right. Both candidates will retort that they will be impartial, and that's almost de rigueur. You have to do that. You have to say that. But I'm not convinced. And I feel if you are a partisan in an issue and you want to get on a board to make an effect, you should run in an election. And I welcome either one to run for my seat. And but so I think that we should pass on these two. And instead, I think we should focus our attention on trying to interest folks from Lake Wyola in planning board and zoning board affairs. Zoning issues have recently arisen down there. We don't have anyone from that neck of the woods. On our board, we benefit from that. I think we should redouble our efforts and see if we can't get one or two folks from Lake Wyola and go that way, and maybe take a little longer doing this. After all, we don't have any applications in front of us. So that's my position, and that's the way I'm going to vote this evening.
Thank you. Other comments from the planning board, Michael?
Yeah, so I guess.
And Robert, we'll get you.
I just, we're sort of replaying the conversation that we had on the planning board. And I guess just to balance it out, you know, my sense is of both Ken and Rob that, you know, when we collectively, all of us who are in these public service roles, put on the hat of doing our official role, that we take that seriously and we seek to make objective, fair, balanced decisions, you know, which might be separate from our personal ones. But that, you know, when I look around, both, you know, people on the select board, on the planning board, other committees, that's what I think most people do, you know, is that you put on this hat and you've got a responsibility to the broader community and to the integrity of the role. And so I think, you know, both with Rob and Ken, I'm very convinced that they can do that. As I mentioned, you know, at the planning board meeting, I've watched enough times where, you know, in previous meetings where Rob actually brings up very contrary perspectives. So I don't think, you know, in his particular instance, since I've listened to him on these things, he more than anyone I know follows the truth. You know, uncomfortableness be damned. So you know, I voted for both of them because I think that's the most important thing, and I have faith that they can do that.
Let's see, Robert, I think you had your hand up.
I'm thinking of my old friend Mike Miller, a Shutesbury resident who died in his early 50s, a scientist, and I think of him very fondly. And I know a day or two before he died, he talked about how vigorously he is opposed to cutting down forests to put up solar. And you know, as I read your column, just read it half an hour ago, Ken, And listen to Rob, I'm hearing that you both have strong opposition to the idea of cutting down forests to put up solar. And if that's a fair guess, I'm wondering to what extent you can move beyond that as members on the planning board, associate members on the planning board, if there's some clarity that the applicant qualifies within our bylaws to have their solar project go forward. I'm wondering if you could both give some input to that question.
In my editorial and letter to the,
Ken, are you going to answer first?
oh yeah, sorry. Am I going to answer first?
We can't hear you.
Yeah, just speak up, Ken.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So in my work as a scientist, I have hypotheses. I believe certain things may or may not happen. But when the bottom line comes out, that is when the data comes out and says, here's what the bottom line is, then I go with that. And if I'm wrong in my hypothesis, if I'm wrong in my bias, then I will go with whatever the data says, whatever the science says, whatever the objective measure is that I can take that's going to give me more information than just a belief system or a bias. I think I can be objective.
Thank you. Rob?
Okay. Answering the same question. I don't know if there's anyone in this meeting that's philosophically aligned with cutting down forests when solar panels could be put on buildings or over parking lots. It's not the preferred way to go by any means. The fact that the state offers, let's say, bonuses for putting the solar panels over brownfields, for example, testifies to the fact they prefer that forests not be cut down for it. That being said, when I spoke out against the Wheeler track, I spoke out against what I saw as shoddy engineering on it. And now from what I understand, and I have not been up there, but from what I understand, we're seeing some of the impact of that less than perfect engineering, with at least one detention pond being flooded when it's supposed to be empty. So when I spoke out about the science of it. And I see the role of the planning board and the other town committees as doing that, speaking to the science, speaking to the data. And yes, when it comes down to a vote, it is discretionary. Someone can vote completely against the facts. I believe I have enough integrity to vote in line with the facts and in line with the law.
Rita,
Okay,
I think I have a question.
Sure.
Can both of you give an example when you made a decision opposite of your personal opinion on something? A good example of where you philosophically disagreed with the decision that you had to make.
Well, I can give you an example of when I put myself at risk because of a philosophical decision. Workplace, one of my equal level managers at the company made some very misogynistic remarks against a young woman engineer who worked for me. And I spoke to top management about it and reported his behavior. And I knew that was risky because he was the golden boy of the company at that point, and I got fired for it. And to this day, I don't regret making that decision because it was the right thing to do.
Thank you. Ken?
So there have been multiple occasions when I've made my hypotheses very clear to people, that I really believe something is going to happen if we do this experiment. And there have been a number of occasions, surprisingly, when I've been wrong. And I'm one of the first people to say, look, this is the way I was thinking at the time. Maybe my thinking was incorrect, but the data tells us what the facts are. And so we've got to go with that. And so I would bow and say, I was wrong. This data doesn't show what I was hoping it would show multiple times.
And Rita, I have one more question.
Sure, Melissa.
Yeah, one more question. So the other question I have was, in thinking of applying for this position, were any of you invited by anyone who currently opposes the solar project, or a committee member from the Concom Planning Board or Historical Commission to apply and to be of interest?
Nobody asked me. I saw the advertisement for it, and I decided there and then that I was going to apply for it. I talked to nobody else about it, not even my friends.
My answer is different. Yes, my wife asked me if I would be interested in it, and she's on both committees. She's much more in tune to the politics within the town than I am.
Thank you. Eric, do you have any questions? Comments?
Well, I have to say, I'm kind of mystified in a sense. I mean, I understand the situation where we need somebody to do it. And I think Jeff has made some very good points. I think that lacking an election, it's a little tough to go into the situation where you're appointing two people who have a known position. And I don't feel like I have a known position. I'm personally a little bit on the fence about the whole thing. I mean, I have to would admit that. I'm concerned about that. I think Jeff's points are very valid points, and I'm not quite sure how we deal with that, since we have no other candidates in front of us to talk about. I don't know if there are thoughts about how we could extend this. Do we have to make this decision right now, or could we extend it out?
No.
Extend the possibility of getting other people or not? I don't know. I don't know the answer to those questions.
Yeah, I don't think there's any deadline for getting the associate members. I think the interest in finding people is the expectation that there will be permit applications at some point, and it would be really good to have this in place, have the associate members in place when that happens. But as far as I know, there's no deadline. We don't know when applications might come before the planning board.
I would also wonder if anybody else in the planning board has a thought that we haven't heard from already.
Can I?
Yes, Steve?
Yeah, I think
And then we'll get you, Rob.
I'm going to say that I'm going to speculate that each of us on the planning board has a different bias. Okay, I won't say what it is, but we all come to the planning board with our own biases. But when we take a look at the state law and we take a look at our solar zoning bylaw, as a planning board member, as an associate planning board member, we have to uphold those and interpret those as objectively as possible. And so I would like to think, that both Rob and Ken understand that they will, if they become associate members, they can have their biases. Again, we each have ours. But they would park those at the door and objectively look at the laws that we are held responsible to uphold. And so that's why I guess I have a little bit more faith than maybe Jeff or maybe Eric, what I hear you have. Because I think from the outside looking in, we may want to impose change on the planning board
But once we get in on the planning board and we take a look at what those laws and zoning bylaws in this case are, that's a responsibility we can't shirk. So I'm okay with people coming on the board who have a bias. It's a long way of saying that, I understand, but.
I have some comments, if I may.
Nathan, yeah, and then Deacon, we'll get to you next. Go ahead, Nathan.
Okay. I did vote yay for Rob, and I guess what it comes down to is, you know, I had gone to their home to get a signature from Miriam when I was getting my name on the ballot. And, you know, we chatted for a bit, and just in the course of the conversation, there was, you know, like a random topic that came up where, you know, it was apparent that Rob and Miriam had differing opinions. So I just kind of took that as a sign of, you know, Rob acting on his independence. And additionally, he has a lot of experience on the planning board in, was it Northfield, I believe? So, you know, that was that. With Ken, I voted against because of, you know, the impression I had from some of the stuff that he had put out previously, which on one hand, you know, in certain areas, you know, it really gets into the realm of fear politics. On the other hand, I understand it. In a past life, I told a governing body that, you know, everybody says America runs on Dunkin' Donuts, but everyone knows it's not good for America, when they were building a Dunkin' Donuts in my neighborhood and when I lived in Holyoke. So, you know, I can understand things like this definitely can get emotional. But I do have a lot of concerns with, you know, ideological slant kind of coming onto this. There's more at stake than, you know, any particular project, because, you know, the bylaw is very nuanced, and looking at things, you know, a given project in the Forest Conservation District where, you know, you may be taking into account biomap 2 habitat. So if for ideological reasons, you know, we use something like that or one thing or another to squash a certain project, that may, you know, that may prevent one project from occurring that may have problems for a lot of people in town, but that may also close the door on other projects that could be proposed in a similar area and with similar effects. And, you know, in town, we have a library issue where, you know, people are really concerned about an additional $75 a year or whatever that may be. Maybe it would be more, maybe it would be less, right? So I think that the board needs to be very careful in the decisions it makes with respect to how you know, the town may move forward in efforts to develop new revenue that's not from the residential base. So that being said, there's also a serious risk with, given that with respect to solar projects, I would have to recuse myself because I have a with my employer, I have a code of conduct, and because the business is related to my company's business, I would need to recuse myself from, you know, debate and voting on any solar project or energy project that would come to town. But so that's already 1 down out of 7, and if we don't have associate members appointed, you know, you're just running into the risk of a, I believe, a constructive grant, right? If we don't make quorum for a special permit process, which is a real serious concern, because, you know, if that happens, then, you know, we're not able to make sure that the engineering is up to snuff. Obviously, you kind of have some issues that are in opposition to each other in this consideration. Given that there are no current applications being submitted or that have been submitted at this time, I would not be opposed to punting on this. But on the other hand, I would understand if people wanted to move forward and have a vote. So that's all I have to say. Oh, one more, I'm sorry, just one more thing. I did want to just acknowledge, Ken, I mentioned, that I did take some issues with some of the stuff you wrote, but I did look through it again, and there are also some really valid and good points that you make that I appreciate. And, should you get appointed, I do, both of you, I hope that you, think about some of these issues broadly and be curious, don't hold on too tight to that initial, kind of feeling in your gut when you think about the clear cutting that might result in that, because as hard as that might be, there's going to be other things that would be worth considering. And so if you do end up appointed, I wish you the best in that journey. So I just wanted to say that to Ken. I did see other good points in some of the things you were making. And that's it. Sorry. Thank you.
Ken, before I get to you, I just want to check with the other two planning board members. Linda, do you have any comments that you want to share with us?
Yeah, I think as several people have already pointed out, I think everyone comes with a bias or an agenda or a concern. The way I got on the planning board was back 10 or 12 years ago when we were redoing the town master plan and the whole thing. And, Jeff Lacey was putting subdivisions all over the place and possibilities for subdivisions all over the place, right? And, I just got interested at that point. Everyone does come with concerns. That's why you do this.
Thank you.
So I think I know a little bit more about Robert because I've seen him in more meetings than Ken, and I think he's I think he'll follow the rules that we have to follow. I mean, he may be biased toward not cutting down trees to put up solar, but I think if you asked a lot of us, you might get the same response from us. But we do have to follow the state guidelines and we do have to follow our own bylaw.
Okay, I just want to give Deacon a chance if you have comments, and then I know both Ken and Rob had their hands up.
Since
And Miriam.
And me.
Oh, and Michael, sorry. A lot of talkers.
Since the meeting when we voted to put these two nominations forward, I've been thinking, I don't doubt for a moment that both of them could put their biases at the door. But I'm very troubled by the appearance problem that is created here. And the appearance problem would be the same if the people were pro-solar. I just don't think that we should be appointing people who have known positions and have advocated for them. It makes me very uncomfortable, and I'm going to change my vote.
Okay, thank you. Let me make sure I'm getting everybody straight here. So Ken, I know you had your hand up, is that right? Just tell me if you want to speak.
I think if you read carefully the theme of the letters that I wrote, the op-ed, letters to the select.
You're fading. We can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. So I think if you read carefully the pieces that I did, the op-ed pieces, the letters to the select board, the letters to the planning board, that in all of those, my appeal is to try to find out objectively whether our approval should go forward or not, objectively. I would hope that I have the integrity. I know I have the integrity to be able to say, if the science says one thing, then that's what we have to do. And so, you know, I may seem repetitive, but I don't know how many times I can say it. If it's a question of my integrity, I think that's your own bias. But I believe that I can be as objective as anybody else, and that's what would guide my behavior.
Okay, Rob, and I know Miriam and Michael.
Yeah, I actually want to agree with Jeff on some of the points he made. First, appointing somebody to the committee is very different from that person being elected, because now you're dealing with a handful of people making the selection, and it's not for the position the person is necessarily held. The second point that Jeff made that I think is an excellent one is all demographics in Shutesbury should be included in this. I understand there's very little involvement with the Lake Wyola area people, and they certainly should be involved in the committees because they're a big part of the town. You do, however, bring special interest in with them just by the fact of where they live. The third thing is, as a Shutesbury resident, I want the two best people in these positions that we can possibly get. If that's not me, that's fine. If it takes another 2 months for you to decide who those people are, or I'm the best you can get, so be it. I'll still be here. So I'd say if you're not comfortable with the possible appointments of myself or Ken, don't make them tonight. If you've got the time and you can repost and get other people to apply, find out who you can get.
Thank you. Miriam?
Yeah, hi. Thanks for letting me talk, even though this isn't really, I'm not part of this deliberation, but I just wanted to, I guess, make a couple comments because it seemed like there were some references to my being biased or my being anti-solar. And I just want to be really clear, because I am the chair of the Concom and I'm on the Historical Commission, that I'm not involved in a political advocacy opposing these solar projects. People who've talked to me, I think, would attest to the fact that I have said that my thinking has evolved. And at this point, I'm agnostic about the proposals. And if anything, on my role in the Concom and the Historical Commission, I've taken some actions that have supported the applicants with the proposed solar projects. On the Concom alone, I found a flaw in the ANRAD process that would have possibly caused the whole special permit process to collapse if we hadn't redone some public hearings. And I think I was supportive of that, and it was in the town's best interest, but also in the applicant's best interest. So I just want to set the story straight about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael?
So I had 2 points. One, just I have to chuckle because I feel like what Rob just said affirms what I think of him, which is, I mean, he just argued against himself. And it was based on facts and as objective as one could get. And I've seen him do it over and over. So if that's not proof that he's willing to take both sides and sort of be even-handed, I think it exemplified that. But I think that, I guess, to add something new to the conversation, and it gets back to what Eric asked about the timing, I think there's 2 things for us to consider. On the one hand, I think it is very true what Nathan said about the constructive approval. And, when we discussed this at town meeting, Michael Pill of all people said, we do need associate members because constructive approval is the worst thing you can do because the planning board doesn't get to add any conditions. It's basically the developer's dream. Whatever they propose is what they get. And as Jeff said, we need a supermajority. And with Nathan, if we're talking about solar project special permits, Nathan can't be part of it. So we're at 6 people automatically. So that's important. I think the other thing just to think about is because this is associate members, elected members have 3-year terms. Associate members, the way the bylaw is written, they run to June 30th. So we're now in October. So, if there's apprehension, both committees have to come together again by June 30th to reappoint. So if we want to think of this as an experiment in can these guys operate with integrity and objectivity, we have an 7.5 month period of experimentation, but there's no commitment beyond that. So they're only 1-year terms every year. So it's much lower risk. It's not like we're appointing them and they get to go on forever. So I think there's 2 things. One is that it's time limited for the appointment. And 2, I think my personal concern is, right now, I would say I'm not expecting a special permit tomorrow, but some people, I didn't reach out to anyone to sort of be associate member for this process. I just sort of let it, whoever was interested, but I know some people were asking around. We got 3 names from that and we did a town announce and we put it on our webpage. So I don't expect people beating down the door. And what I fear is that, yes, we can wait a month or 2, but if we do get something in, we then have to get the seats filled so they can be part of the process. And so for me, looking at that timing, I'd rather go with the temporary appointment. I think that these 2 guys would be good at it anyway, but I think the temporariness of it may allay some people's fears.
So I had a question. I'm not sure who might be able to answer it. So let's say an application came in, 4 or 5 applications come in March, and therefore one of the members has to recuse himself, and so an associate member is the person in place, and that permit hearing runs beyond, let's say it comes in April and it runs beyond June 30th. You can't not reappoint that person, right? It has to be the same person, would have to be reappointed. So it's not really just a 1 year necessarily till June 30th, because by virtue of, you just can't replace them. So they'd have to be reappointed.
Yeah,
Well, they don't.
If you had one, that, well, first of all, the associate doesn't have to come on board or be appointed until the hearing is convened.
Okay.
And you get 65 days from a complete application to hold a hearing. So if you don't have an associate, you can push that out and then scramble for one if you haven't already got one on the line. But yeah, so the associate has to be present when the hearing is opened, and there needs to be continuity throughout the hearing and then into the deliberative phase after that.
Right.
That's when that all starts.
So yeah, so I'm just saying if Jeff, if that deliberation then went beyond June 30th, then you would have to reappoint that person, the associate member who was part of that permit process.
You'd be very wise to. Yeah.
I'm just saying, Michael's point was, you can just, on June 30th, you could get new associate members if we were unhappy with whoever we came up with. But if in fact, if you were in the middle of a permit process, I don't think you could just replace that person. They would have to be reappointed.
It would be
you may be able to replace. I'd have to check with.
Yeah, I can't imagine. It seems like the rules are so strict around.
If you had somebody who attended every hearing alongside, like the second associate, and I'd strongly recommend if we had 2 that they both attend all the hearings, And that's crucial, is you have to hear all the hearings. You can only miss
Right.
one. So if you had a second associate that listened to the same thing and the first one dropped out, you might be able to drop the second one in. As long as they heard everything. So you'd have to
Right.
try to get them all there.
Right, okay. Okay, let's see. Nathan, and then Jeff,
Yeah.
did you have your hand up too? Okay,
Yeah,
One little comment.
okay.
Yeah, and Rita, I would just like to riff off of what you said. I think you make a good point, and you know, I'm not as well versed in the the state law as some of the other people that are in this meeting. So for a hypothetical situation with a 7-member board, you need, it's 5 votes you would need to pass a special permit, right?
5 out of 7.
During 5 out of 7. So during a given election year, you know, it's a 3-year term on the planning board, and you would have 2 members 1 year, 2 members the next year, and then 3 members the 3rd year. So if on that 3rd year, 3 members were voted out, and now you have 3 new members on the board, but there was a special permit hearing that was in flight over the course of that election. Is there anything in state law that provides for that, or have the people forced the planning board to be incapable of? I mean, you still have quorum, but you wouldn't be able
Right.
to grant the permit because you have 3 new members that were voted in.
Those kind of questions fly across my listserv all the time, because things like that happen, and you want to do everything you can not to make them happen if possible.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Yeah, because you can have new people coming on that that haven't heard anything, so that they can't really participate. And I mean, that's really why special permits need to be done expeditiously. They can't drag on. You've got to have a strategy. You have to know when elections are coming and time it right, because you don't want to get in these situations. If you have a shaky member that's being challenged by somebody and is going to get bounced off the board, you better hope to get that special permit done while they're still there.
But you don't know when the special permit application will come in. So, I mean,
No.
so good, yeah, I didn't even think of that, Nathan.
We don't even know if it's going to come in. We don't even know
Right,
if it's going to come in.
We
do
don't. We don't know.
Well.
That's correct.
You know,
Jeff, go ahead.
I just want, I'm sorry, I ran unopposed this time, but just on a note, I was the only person up for re-election. So in our particular situation, we could have 3 people back-to-back years. But it doesn't seem like it's that many people jumping at the bit to get their name on the ballot for this position here. Anyway, sorry.
If there's a political controversy over a permit, that could change a little bit.
That's right.
So I just want to make one additional comment. I guess it's about something Rob said, and it has to do with how things are seen and perceived and presented. You know, in general, the Wheelock has been a successful. To me, it's performed well. It's been a successful project. I've done regulatory work on dozens of these in my old job, and I've seen some horror shows, but generally that site has not eroded, not deposited sediment. It's been contained within the property, out of the wetlands. And you know, there's some things to be cleaned up. You know, we got heavy rainstorms now, and the road needs work, and the ditches need to be hardened a little bit. But Rob's remark about the basin, what was supposed to be a retention basin, flooding. Now that sounds bad, flooding. Well, it's not really flooding. It's simply not discharging all of its water. It's retaining some water, which is reducing its capacity, which needs to be addressed. And we brought that up with the applicant. But the important thing is that, and the Concom and I walked into the woods. We tried to find sediment that had come out of that basin that had gone anywhere near wetlands, and there was none. So most important thing is the basin's working, it's doing its job. It needs to be tweaked a little bit so it can even work better if we get really huge storms. But so far it's doing its job. And I would not classify that basin as flooding.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Other comments, questions from planning board or select board members? Or our guests this evening? All right, so hearing none, I think what we will go ahead and do is go ahead and take a vote. So Linda, I'm going to check with you. Does the select board and planning board need to vote separately, or is this done? I
No.
know this has come up now.
It's a collective vote. It's the
I asked
majority.
Linda.
I know.
Thank you. Linda, you're on mute.
Actually, Becky, I defer to Becky.
Okay.
I believe
I know this has come
one
up
motion and everybody votes.
Yeah,
One motion.
I think it's all lumped together.
Okay.
So.
Okay. I just know it came up before, so thank
Because
you.
it's a joint position, right? And I know with the school committee, I thought both needed to make a motion, but
Right.
there were, anyway, I don't know if you would vote on each candidate or vote
Yeah,
on.
I think we'll do separately. Okay, so I will entertain a motion from either the select board or planning board regarding appointment of the first candidate or one of the candidates for the associate membership.
I'll move to appoint Rob Kibler as an associate member of the planning board through June 30th, 2022.
Do I hear a second? I have not heard a second.
Robert did.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you just speak up? Okay. All right. Any further discussion? All right. So I will go starting with the planning board and then moving on to the select board. I'm going to do it by my screen. So Robert Raymond.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I got that. Steve Bressler,
Aye.
Nathan Murphy,
Nay.
Linda Rotundi,
Aye.
Michael DiChiara,
Aye.
Deacon Bonner,
No.
Jeff Lacy,
Nay.
Melissa Makepeace O'Neill.
No.
I'm sorry.
No. Thanks.
Oh, okay. Eric Stocker,
Nay.
Farrell, nay. I didn't count.
It's 6-4, no's win.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to appoint Kenneth Holt as the associate member of the planning board?
I'll move to appoint Ken Holt as an associate member of the planning board through June 30th, 2022.
And do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, I'll go starting with the planning board again, probably in different order. Linda Rotundi,
Aye.
Steve Bressler,
Aye.
Robert Raymond,
Aye.
Nathan Murphy,
Nay.
Michael DeCiara,
Aye.
Deacon Bonner,
No.
Jeff Lacy,
Nay.
Melissa Makepeace O'Neill,
Nay.
Eric Stocker,
Nay.
and Farrell, nay.
Again, 6 against and 4 affirmative, so it fails.
Okay, so first of all, I want to thank all of you, and particularly the 2 people that put up their names for the associate membership. I think it was, at least for me personally, and listening to all of the discussion, particularly from the planning board members tonight, and knowing what's likely going to be before us, that I felt a real responsibility to have what I think is folks who have not taken a really strong position. And I think the optics are really important here, and that we should do a broader outreach, again, and have, folks who have not, or we feel will not come with sort of a predetermined outcome. And I just, think, again, we can all say we'll be as objective, but some of what I heard tonight didn't make me have a great level of comfort about that. So I guess, to the planning board, going back out and seeing what's out there. If you can find people from other parts of town who, do not have any kind of conflict, that would be great. So, and thank you all to the planning board, and thank you again to both Ken and to Rob. It's not a reflection upon you as individuals. So, and I really, appreciate your having gone through this.
Thank you.
So the select board is just going to adjourn, right? We don't have anything else, Becky, we took care? Okay,
You're all set. You're all done for the night.
okay. So
Just
do I
out
hear a
to-
motion? Eric?
Before we adjourn, I'd just like to say that I agree with everything you said, Reed. I think that's, it was a really hard decision. And I think, to me, it's as much as anything else, it is, the word optics has been used. I think Deacon used it first and you just used it again. I mean,
I used a
the
pair.
optics are not good. That's all. And that's really my feeling. Not that the candidates aren't qualified or interesting or whatever, and all the things, but the optics are not good. That's all.
And I'll,
Do I hear,
I'll agree
go ahead,
with both Rita and Eric on those 2 points, or on both points.
well, thank you again, everybody. And do I hear a motion to adjourn the select board meeting?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn the select board meeting.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in
Second.
favor?
Good night, all.
Good night.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker eye.
Errol, aye. Okay, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.
Hey, Deacon, we have to
Night.
adjourn.
We should adjourn too.
I
Motion
move
to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Aye.
Aye and bye.
Thank you all.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Night.